Welcome to Slayerfest 98. I'm Ian Carlos Crawford.
Oh, I'm Philip Ellis. Sorry.
It's your first time.
Every time.
Kimberly Ann Southwick.
And I'm Ryan Houlihan, and we are here to discuss The Magician's Pilot, Season 1, Episode 1, Unauthorized Magic.
Yay! We're here. We're covering them. I have talked about this show. I feel like the four of us have talked about this show nonstop while talking Buffy for the last 4 years. I kept saying we were going to cover it, and now we are here. Kim, you are the person that got me into the show.
I
am. We all read the books? I know you have, Kim, and you have Ryan, right?
I read those books right at release, so this has been a wild ride for me.
Philip, did you? I can't remember.
No, I can't read. No, I revisiting the show now, knowing that we're going to be discussing it. It's made me want to go back and read them, just because the Wikipedia plot summaries are wild.
They weirdly do incorporate a lot of shit from the books, right, Ryan? It's weird. It's different, but it's still there.
It's remixed, remastered, the Ru-Up edition.
Yeah.
It's they take elements and they take vibes and storylines and themes, and then they do a crazy downstairs mix up. They do party mix with it, and I like that. I think a lot of stuff is either an exact adaptation, or it's a truncated version, or it's a completely different thing. And while those are all okay ways to do things, that's my preferred way to adapt something into a TV show, especially a TV show with magic, where you could do different things each week, which is clearly what us and our audience prefer. You want it to be a little more loosey-goosey, and you want to be able to do something new with it. What is the point of making a literal shot-for-shot recreation of a graphic novel? I get that it's crazy you can do it, but outside of that, no offense to the Dick Tracy movie, what is the point of that?
Yeah, when people get really upset about that shit, I'm always yeah, but I mean, we have the book, we have the other.
It's
thing.
A TV show. If you adapted something from an Xbox game to a Wii game in 2009 or whatever, you'd change some things because it's a different thing you're doing there. TV is a different thing than a book. It just literally is. So you have to do stuff. You have to make choices about actors and specifics. And if you're doing that anyway,
right?
Let's make it the best thing we can make it. So I was thrilled when I heard that this was how they were doing things.
So Brian, give us your origin first. Did you start from the beginning?
Yes, I read a article. At this point in my life, I had already grown dissatisfied with the Harry Potter monoculture that my life had been shoving at me. And I had been a Harry Potter reader from the beginning. I had that book before there was articles written about that book. I was in, because I've been a fantasy person, and being so plugged into that for so long. The Magicians came up, and it was it's Harry Potter. If all the shit you're currently hater curious about Harry Potter for was blasted to fucking 12. And I remember reading that first review or whatever and being yoink. And I have been disappointed by things that claimed to be that or to be a version of that so many times in my life that I was still grabbing for it should show you the level of thirst there was for this kind of a thing. I was ready for this to be good so bad for so long. It's like a man. And so when I saw that Lev Grossman was writing it, I was it's gonna be good. And then it was good. And then every time one of those books came out, more and more people were into it. And it was and then, of course, still being plugged in, I saw that Sci-Fi was doing this, and I was literally I was trembling. I watched this premiere live. I was trembling. My husband I'd forced him, ex-husband now. Not because of this. This made extended things for 2 years. I made him read the books, and then I made him watch the show, and he loved it. And from the moment I saw Summer Bishel on screen, I said, we're ready to fucking rumble, baby. And I had a great time. I'm going to say, spoiler alert, when we get to the end of these episodes, Ryan liked it. So that's my origin story and current state of affairs. Chef's kiss, guys.
Love it. I read I bought the book for me, Kim, and I think like two of our other friends that year for Christmas because, like you said, Ryan, it was like we were a little thirsty for Harry Potter and like it kept being compared to like adult Harry Potter. And I was like, well, that sounds up our alley. And so I remember waiting for it to come out and buying it for us for Christmas so we could all read it together. I read the first two, and the show, I don't remember because I did watch it before you, Kim, but I gave up.
Mm-hmm.
I think I watched up to like the first two episodes of season 2, gave up, and then you had started watching it, right? Like on Netflix?
Yeah, I started watching it when it came out on Netflix, the show in particular. I read the book when you gave it to me, and then I gave it to my friend Caitlin and never got it back.
I don't know where mine is. Yeah, it's not on my bookshelf.
Yeah, so I'd given it to her. So like I kind of forgot about the books, and then the show I think started like when I was in grad school already. So I was always hungry for something I could just like sit on the couch and like just like I did like all of Star Trek except the original. I did like all of Deep Space Nine, all of Enterprise, all of
I forgot when you did that. Yeah, you went through all this.
When I was in my PhD program. Yeah, and then somewhere in there was Magicians, and then also Magicians then wasn't finished by the time I started watching it. I think it was like, who knows, like when I
think it was season 3. So I think that's when you were like, that's when I got back into it because you convinced me.
Yeah, exactly. So I watched the first 2 seasons, then I started the third, and you had said you had stopped, and I was like, I got to a particular episode that we'll talk about someday, and I texted you immediately, and I was like, you have to watch this show. You will love this show. It just keeps getting better. And you did give it. I remember you not right away because you were like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But then you was
it's
like,
Ian.
One night you just turned it on, and like it was like nonstop from there. So I think it took me like me texting you about it like a bunch of times.
So I'm so thankful you did, Kim. Look at us now. Philip, how did you get into the show?
So I'm kind of a Johnny come lately. It's funny actually, Kim, that you mentioned Star Trek because this was my year of going through all of TNG, Voyager, and Deep Space Nine for like the millionth time again because I started watching The Magicians in the year 2020. So basically, was not allowed to leave my house, and I was like, okay, like what am I gonna do to pass the time?
Escape to Fillory.
Right, exactly. So I watched season 1 in the space of one day. I think I started it in the afternoon, like while I was getting some work done. I was like, I'm going to put this on in the background and see. And then by the end of that night, I was like halfway into season 2.
Good day.
Yeah, around my eyes, like because I hadn't like really blinked like much. I was like, there's so much fucking plot and there's so much happening, but like also everyone in this is just such a little bitch, and it's just like everyone is super hot. They're all fucking mean and fucking rude. And it's just like everyone's chaotic. There is like a million different storylines happening, and it's just like even if you're not enjoying half the stuff that's going on, there's going to be something in there for you because they throw everything at the wall. It's like if what Ryan Murphy did was good.
Yes, yeah, I think that's a really good comparison.
Yeah, I like it because it's like the philosophy is 2 things that I agree with, which is more. That's just true. Like I don't know why people would not do the math there. And second, smoke them if you got them. You got something to show. You got a storyline. You got a little line. We actually don't need 22 episodes to get to an iconic piece of imagery. Nowadays, you're competing with TikTok. Let's just smoke them if we got them. And if we get another season, we'll make up more good stuff.
Yeah,
and like that's not the only way to write a TV show. Obviously, I love Buffy, but for the current media landscape or what was current at the time, that's how you got to do it. Ryan Murphy even doesn't quite do that, like because he smokes ones he doesn't got.
Yes. Yeah, it's I always say like on paper it shouldn't, like if you told me all of that, like, well, it's kind of like Ryan Murphy. Well, there's like 85 plots at once. I'd be like, yeah, but I don't like that. But like I do like it here. I don't know, like I'm not quite sure what it's like the perfect balance of all that where like, okay, sometimes there is too much plot, but like, that's okay. I don't know. Like
it's also helpful that everyone is hot.
Well,
yes,
that's
and
true.
I feel like sex education is kind of like that where there's like 12 million things going on at once, but like everyone is very attractive. So it's like, oh, I'm just gonna keep watching.
I think it's also that like they give you a lot of specificity for what's happening and how it's going to happen. Like they're like, and not, I'm going to make something up here, but they're like, this is a ghost named Roderick. he throws spaghetti at everyone and he's made of rats. And you're like, and it's a lot of specifics, but then they don't tell you anything else. So if you're into Roderick, who's made of rats, in the next season, they're like, well, guess what? Because he was an integral part of this. And if he wasn't, then they find a way to like punish and get rid of him.
Yes.
And you can tell that they, as the writers, were doing things and being like, that episode is locked or like that element is locked, but then figuring out if they liked it. And I think Buffy did a similar thing where they were like, let's bring in Anya, but let's also bring in other people and see who, like Jonathan, and see who we like writing for the most. And like they did the similar thing on Angel where they were like, are we going to bring in this, like, what was her name? Fuck, I always love her. And we're not on the Angel pod, so it's out of my mind. With the lightning.
Oh, Gwen Raiden, yeah.
Gwen, fuck yes, Gwen. Like Stefani. A huge career at the beginning, didn't really pay off in the end, like Gwen Stefani. She came on the show and clearly didn't work, or they thought she didn't work. I thought she worked great and wanted more of her, but they didn't think she worked. I think they do the same thing with everything on this show. Yeah. And in 4 episodes, if they kind of were like, we miss writing that thing, they throw it in. And I think they carried some of these techniques over to things like You, right? But magic means that you can do whatever the fuck you want. So if you need to clear up some plot threads with a Taylor Swift song, you're like, that would be fucking cool. And if people like that, we'll do more musical numbers like that. If not, it's a one-off wacky joke and a fantasy show. Like, it's a really smart way to set yourself up to write a lot of good episodes. And it only works because, like you said, the cast is excellent and so attractive.
I always say one of the things about the show that makes it so good is that like it doesn't take itself too seriously. But when it does, but it can still, like, it's not afraid to be funny. It's not afraid to make a joke. It's not afraid to make light of something while at the same time being like dead serious about the shit that you want it to be serious about.
Yeah.
It's really funny that, Ryan, you just brought up You, which, obviously showrunner Sarah Gamble also worked on that show. And there is very much like DNA in common, especially when it comes to not taking itself too seriously and sort of knowing that your audience is going to be watching it with one eye rolling. Like, it's like, in season 1 of You, like, that girl just needs to buy some curtains and lock her fucking front door, and this plot would be fine. And it's the same with the magicians. It's like, if any of these characters sort of had a grown-up conversation for 5 minutes, all of their problems would be solved, and you're kind of like rolling your eyes that they're not doing that, but also then you're enjoying that all of these bad decisions just lead to more fun storytelling.
Yeah. It's like if any one of the friends had gotten therapy, the whole structure of those people's lives would have collapsed. Any single one of them. But luckily, in fictional New York, there are no therapists.
Or people of color.
And I disappeared.
But so, they're like, this show is just like a perfect storm. And I think you're right, Ryan. That was like that era of TV as well, right? Like, it just really was. It still kind of is. And like,
do not insult the magicians by comparing it to the current TV landscape.
Fair.
Everybody out there, you know what you're doing. Go fuck yourself. Self-fund a YouTube series. Don't do what you're doing. Don't do any of this.
So Kim and I would compare it to like Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, which I do think was really good, but took a steep turn eventually. But like that would have like 85 plots too, but I would enjoy it and I'd be like, oh, I forgot about this plot. Oh, we're gonna check back in with that character. Sure. And like there is a way to do that where it's still enjoyable, even if you're kind of lost, which, speaking of, Lost was also kind of like that, right? But okay, so we're here to talk the first episode. We open on Dean Fogg and Eliza, yes. I was like, wait, what's her name?
By the way, we're not doing spoilers, just because this is the first episode going out. So we're talking episode by episode, which I keep having to remind myself because it is so serialized.
Is it a spoiler to say that it's hard to talk about this episode without talking about spoilers? Because just so you all know who are watching for the first time, like this is hard for us.
Yes, I have felt very rusty this recording this because I'm like, oh fuck, I can't say that. Okay, well I can't. Oh.
I watched the first 3 episodes for these recap sessions just in one go because I've been a little busy, and I was like, oh, the first time we recorded, it was for the 3rd episode. A little behind the scenes tea for the Patreon fans. And and in that episode, I very knowingly was like, just because we've already recorded it, but that was a lie. But I thought, oh, this is a mistake, because I could do it for the third episode, but there is going to be a real. If you see an edit point, it's because I was like, so and so dies.
Ryan, a thing I did notice, you did say your favorite outfit was an outfit Margot wears in this episode when you recorded for that. Because as I was watching it last night, I was like, oh, that's the outfit Ryan was talking about. Doesn't matter. It's fine.
It matters to me. The AI that transcribes and studies this show one day will know I got something wrong.
I get things wrong all the time. It's fine. But yeah, so we open on Dean Fogg and this woman, Eliza. To be fully honest, I'm not even sure. Like, I know what they're talking about because we, like, the moth she puts, we see that at the end. But, like, when she's like, it's happening again, I was like, I'm not fully sure what is happening. Like, I know where the plot goes, but I don't know specifically what thing she's talking about.
It's very just like generic, ominous fantasy dialogue. Where like it's our first introduction to this world, and it's like, oh well, there's something big is coming, you know.
Buffy loved doing that early on in the seasons.
Very, very that, and I've just got to the point revisiting season 1 where I'm like, oh, I think this is what they were referring to. But ultimately, like that first scene doesn't really matter. The best bit of that first scene is you get like grey, cold New York, and then a door opens, and there's this sunny, warm place where Dean Fogg is coming from. And it's just like, oh my god, like magic intruding into the real world. And it's like, this is the show that we're having. We're having like gritty realism with sort of fairy tale stuff as well.
Like the newspaper he's holding is about climate change. And so it's like,
I didn't even notice that.
Looming problem.
So my boyfriend and I were supposed to be together at a conference, and we couldn't be because he got COVID, and he lives in a different state than I do. So this is very sad for me. This is relevant, I promise. And so we watched the first episode together, like via text message. And it was really cool for me to like have someone who like had like literally no idea what they were getting themselves into. Cause I'm like watching it to rewatch it, but then also like watching it from his point of view. You know what I mean? And I was like, he has no idea. This doesn't make any sense at all. I'm like, I know all the things. So I'm texting him. I'm like, I promise this makes sense with the rest of the show. And
he did text me last night to say he did like it.
He did, yeah. He said he was pretty sure he was going to like it because you and I liked it. And I was like, are you though? Like, we like music you don't like.
Yeah, and we try to get everyone in this show, and it doesn't always land.
But I think he was liking it. I was like, it has a lot of plot. There's a lot of plot. That's my only thing. That's my only warning here. So.
Yeah, so we get this, you know, what is I think he says they're not even at Brakebills yet, and she puts that moth down. And so I have been in my Saltburn, whatever, like that movie made me so happy because I loved it so much, because it was the coked out love child of A Separate Piece by John Knowles and talented Mr. Ripley. I just like that is, and it's set in like 2006, all that music. And watching this for this podcast, because since Ryan, you pulled the curtain back, we've recorded 4 episodes already. This is the first one. This is for episode 1, but this is like our 5th episode. So I've been listening to a lot of music from that era, and God, them transitioning to MGMT's Time to Pretend with like him there, like flipping his coin, looking angsty is just, I love it. I love it so much.
When the Gen Z find out about MGMT, it's over. It's over.
So my hotel room had the captions on, like the CC, and I can't do it. Like
I watch everything with them.
Couldn't figure out how to turn them off. I know other people are like super into them, but for me, like I just read the words instead of watching. So this was, interestingly, to have the lyrics of the song up there really enhanced, because normally it's just background music for me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm paying attention to what's going on, but like to have the lyrics up there was like highly effective. And I'm like, do I have to watch with the captions on for the rest of it now? Because like just like what they're saying too, like not just like the vibe and the mood like of the song and how it brings us to that era, but like I was like, oh, they did a really good placement with this song for a variety of reasons.
Yes, I think it's such a good intro song too, and then like you said, the lyrics do kind of match like the show and like what they're talking about. Also, that psychologist is kind of not right when she's like, oh, you must be fun at parties. It's like, is that helpful? Like,
I know. I was sitting there thinking, Miss Harleen Quinzel, what are you?
I mean, seriously.
I don't think you're good at your job.
Yeah, and so,
or maybe we should switch positions here because I think he might have some stuff to explain to you.
Yeah.
I was glad when it stopped flipping to them and just stayed at the party. You know?
Yeah. So we're getting like he's kind of talking to her. They're talking, and then it's also showing this party that he's at, where he's like. They kind of like do both, right? They show him sitting by himself, but then they show him like drunk and like chatting up people, but like he's kind of talking about nerd shit, which like any of the four of us can relate to, being like, oh, I'm like socializing at a party. Oh, I'm talking too much about this like very specific interest I have, and these people don't care as much.
Yeah, this is my like series long theory that this whole show is about being autistic and in a gang.
In a gang. Well, Ryan, let me know when you join a gang. I would love to hang out.
But like, are you telling me that therapist wasn't neurotypical people are insane coded? Because that's exactly what she was. She was like definition of a person who's like, I don't know why you have anxiety. And it's like, well, I read the news. Well, you shouldn't. I shouldn't know. Wait, what?
Yeah, it is. We see that like it's him and is it him and Julia's? Is it their graduation party or is it just like a party at their apartment?
I think it's just the party.
Okay.
I thought it was like not necessarily someone's graduation, but like it's the end of the year. Let's like smoke them if we got them. Yeah. What a metaphor.
It's giving very like in, because this was 2015, 2016?
I think 2015 or 16, yeah.
It's just giving like every TV show's version of what like a Brooklyn loft like get together. There's so many slouchy beanies in these first few episodes.
And that room that's just like right off the main like thing. Like I've been to that room before.
I was like,
yeah, this is all real. Like this exists. I wish I could have escaped it.
It's a little big though, as it must.
Yes.
Be. Yeah. But other than that,
Kim, didn't you live in a bedroom in Brooklyn that was like Q's, where it's like a glass door that you could see through? That's like off from the living room.
They were like this, but they weren't glass. They were like
okay, right,
and it was very thin. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I mean, I've definitely had sex in an apartment like that where I'm like...
Not a good room to have a threesome in. Is what
I mean, depends on your roommate.
So yeah, we also meet, like, we are introduced to Julia, and I don't know, I immediately like their relationship here. Like, I'm like, I think the actors do a good job of conveying, like, two friends who have known each other, like, a real fucking long time, not just like, oh, they're roommates. It's like... they feel close, like the fact that she lays in bed with him and it's not sexual, and she gives him a kiss and it's not like there's no, at least
there's
at this point,
will they or won't they right now? Yeah, they're just friends. Yeah, absolutely.
And
like they do all of that without saying like, "How long have you been my sister?"
Right.
Or whatever.
Yes, yeah. And like I like that we can see her boyfriend walk in and he jokes about being jealous, but then he's like threesome and like jumps on the bed. Like that is, I appreciate that we don't do any of the normal shit that other shows might have done with like, oh, the boyfriend doesn't like Quentin because he's laid in bed with Julia, and like, how dare she?
It's immediately setting up your expectations and then just going in the other direction.
Yeah.
Also, it's foreshadowing for how fucking hot this show is going to get with gender. So see you later.
Loves threesomes.
Yeah, exactly. See y'all later.
I think a lot about how like, because this show's fairly gory with like blood and stuff, but like if this had been an HBO show, like I feel like it would have like been kind of horror-y, but also there would have been a lot of like on-screen fucking, like way more.
Yeah, we would have gotten a villain full frontal.
Yeah. When the monster steps out of the mirror at the end, it would hang in his dick like
horse cock.
Yeah.
I rewatched Dune recently with my boyfriend when he was supposed to be with me in the hotel room, and I was like,
the new one or the David Lynch one?
The new one, the first part of the new one. Yeah,
I haven't seen that.
And where like the king dude, I don't remember their names. The Timothée Chalamet's dad is like laying there, and like it's like they're blocking everything but his dick. I was like, "Where's the penis?" And Jude was like, "Oh, it's PG-13." I was like, "Oh."
Kim.
We gotta get you in theaters for Dune Part 2 somehow.
Our friend Ruben, hello Ruben, if you're listening, we're in a group chat with him, and I remember one of the times we were driving and I was like telling him stories of me and Kim when we were teens, and he was like, "Oh, you're both slutty. I like that. That's why Kim gets along with gay men so well." So I was saying like a basis of our friendship was like exchanging sex stories. So yeah, we get also the bed collapses. I would be very fucking mad if my bed collapsed at a party.
If it's the last week of school.
True. Where's that?
That's what leads me to think that it's not their apartment. It's just like Julia and Quentin kind of being dicks.
But the books are all there.
The books are there. That's why I think it is their apartment.
Oh, right.
Because that's what I thought originally too, that it was just like a random. But then I was like, the books are there. He also says something about, we skipped over this. He does kind of explain to the doctor the like kind of like framework of the book series, right? He's like, he tells her about Martin Chatwin. It's Rupert and Jane. Full disclosure, I didn't even remember there being a third Chatwin sibling. I'm like, who is Rupert Chatwin? Like,
oh, I feel like the show, it's like Halliwell Sisters. They just keep putting more and more in there. Sorry, Ryan, I want to brought up Charms this time.
I don't think that he's telling the therapist. I think we get like his version in the head of the book.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes, because like they walk into the clock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yes, yeah. So it's like he's reading and he's like imagining.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, right, because she does say he's rereading it, yeah.
They do a pretty good job of being like, this is what it is if you need to know. If you don't need to know, look at the imagery. It's Narnia, next thing. You know? I think that was smart.
Yeah, me too.
Harry Potter, we're doing Narnia, let's move on.
There are magical things. There's a kid. There's a clock on the wall.
It's like, you're all adults here. This isn't your first rodeo. Grab a wand. Let's go.
I also like when they talk about fleeing to the magical hills of Jersey, but that's just because I'm from New Jersey. So when they mention us.
Just about to say that, Kim. That was literally my line. Yeah, because I don't remember what he's talking. Like, is he talking about? Like, was the like hospital he went to in New Jersey?
They're going back and forth, so I'm not sure. I don't remember.
I think he's lying. I think he said that he was like, "Oh yeah, I couldn't deal."
His dad lives in New Jersey.
He went to stay with his dad when really we know that he committed himself, and then because it comes later on, Julia says, "I know where you were."
Yes, good thing one of us is paying attention. So yeah, and then we cut to Julia and Q going. So he says he said like something like it's an alumni interview. Mm-hmm. I have a question. Does that mean like he was being interviewed by an alumni of supposedly Yale? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. You either get a recommendation or you don't in these stupid little social clubs that they pretend are schools.
Because I didn't have to do that for grad school.
I didn't.
Yeah, because you went to a real school, not like a fucking Skull and Bones training facility, farm team. Fuck that.
It's like an Ivy thing.
Okay.
I did an alumni interview for my undergrad application to Columbia, which I did not get into, but that's beside the point.
Okay. Because I was going to say, I didn't remember you doing one for NYU, Tim, did you?
Mm-mm. Okay. It's not an Ivy. I think it's like an Ivy thing.
Oh, just right. Okay.
I feel like Rory Gilmore would have done one.
Yeah. Fair enough.
It's like okay, so my boyfriend went to an Ivy and he was telling me like, oh, you didn't have a beginning of term dinner? And then he showed me pictures of fucking Cirque du Soleil. And I was like, no, we didn't do that. We had a pizza party on the floor because we had to fucking go to school the next day. Like, no, we weren't at the Capitol with Katniss and Tigress.
Wasn't it wild watching Katniss and PETA hold hands at the end of the Hunger Games?
He's like, your whole rowing team doesn't do backflips in front of you at a Coliseum to celebrate Arbor Day? No. We didn't do that.
And I barely went to a real school for grad school. I went to New School. Like, people haven't heard of it. And it's very expensive.
So, yeah, I think it's supposed to set a tone that they were expecting, like, elite education. Okay. So we don't get, we don't have the Harry Potter effect where it's like, I never thought I would be in such a place. They just like cut it off by being like, these kids expected this.
Like they were already smart.
Those two at least. Yeah. I mean, we get like a ragtag cast here, but Julia and Quentin, yeah.
And Julia especially comes from money. Like there's a conversation with her and her sister later in the season where like they refer to their mother as kind of this waspy kind of, she's on the board of the Met kind of character. So yeah, like they are very...
Yeah.
Upper West Side.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because there are a couple things that happened pretty fast here that last night when I was watching it. What?
Can I just say her parents are essentially the fictional version of Lady Gaga's parents that she doesn't like to claim, who are like clearly rich, but they live in a normal looking house because that's what millions of dollars gets you in New York City.
New York, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, anyway.
So there are a couple things that happen here that are, and I mean, I guess I will say this a lot, but we kind of get to everything really quickly because I feel like because of the like I do think this is a good pilot though. Like I do think this is a good first episode. But like we start with this, which feels we're starting small, and then we get big so fast, right? Like suddenly that with the woman that we saw from the beginning is the EMT, and she's like, "Oh, he had this for you," and he says it's the Secret Six fillery book. Julia does kind of react shitty because it's like,
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like any of us, if it's a book series we liked, even if we hadn't read it since we were children, I would be like, holy fuck, a secret next book to this series I loved as a kid? Like, that would make sense to be excited.
Like an early release copy of a book in a series you care about was the plot of The Devil Wears Prada.
Like, I was just going to say that.
A long lost tome that was probably going to be worth hundreds of millions of dollars in media rights. Yeah, I'd be like, what the fuck just happened? Julia's like, I don't know. We have enough Fabergé eggs and tomes in my Upper West Side apartment.
Throw in the garbage.
The title of this sixth manuscript is The Magicians. Like, it was very like, oh, they said the thing.
I fucking missed that. I fucking missed that.
The aristocrats.
I don't know. I could see like, okay, from Julia's perspective, I do think that the show writers maybe could have had them have this little spat earlier about the books and not over the sixth book. But, like, she's like, you know, I thought you were going to give up on all this fillery stuff. And, like, Quentin's clearly damaged, right? Like, there's clearly, like, we know where he's just been. And she knows even if she doesn't know, right? So she's really trying to help him, like, on to the next step. So if they had a conversation previously, and it seems like they do, she's like, oh, I thought you were going to give up on all this fillery shit, right? Like, I could see her just being like, oh, like, no, like, this is something, we are done with that. Like, we've had this conversation before. But yeah, I don't think we know. It's too fast for us to not think that she's being shitty here.
They go from being really close friends to being really antagonistic with each other, and like far too fast. And then like we keep like for the rest of the season, we keep hearing about what good friends they used to be, but we've only ever seen them really like being terrible to each other.
It is a weakest point of the show is that there just wasn't any time to actually make us care.
Because I look at it, because like we are told they've been friends forever. So I look at it as me and Kim. Like Kim wrote in my Christmas card one year, like, we wish we were as cool as Elliot and Margot, but we're more Julia and Quentin, but that's okay. And like, cute. So that's what I think of them as. And so like Kim, I'm as the like severely nerdy depressed one, I'm like, Kim would never say like, fucking shut up about Buffy. You're depressed and you found something cool of Buffy. I don't want to hear about it. Shut the fuck up. Like, you would never say that to me. You'd be like, oh, I'm great. You're happy that you found this fucking weird thing. Like,
I wasn't sure if it was going to be rude, but I was like, Quentin and Fillery is very Ian and Buffy coded.
Oh, absolutely. Are you kidding me? Every time. So a friend of mine on Twitter, Taylor Robbins, has been watching The Magicians for the first time. Every other tweet is like, I fucking hate Quentin. I can't stand him. And I'm like, oh man, I am Quentin. And like, I feel like a lot of people don't like him, but I do, because I'm like, this is me. I am the anxious nerd.
I am not into astrology, but now you know how it feels like to be a Cancer. You tell people you're a Cancer and they go, oh, I'm a Leo.
That's cute for you.
Oh, no response. It must not be good.
Quentin, though, is like a man that at the age that these characters are at, we absolutely would have had a huge crush on.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. I thought you were going to say hated. I was going to be like, I don't know that we would have hated him. We wanted to fuck him.
Like the hair, that length, like the mysterious, like moody sort of like,
untucked button up with a tie, with a cardigan. I wore those outfits.
That's my boyfriend who went to an Ivy League school. Like, it's literally that person.
Again, it's kind of like how, you know how, Kim, maybe you can relate to this, like when you have kids, like the kids have evolved to be cute so that you love them even when they're terrible. And I feel like Quentin, they're like, we have to cast like the hottest actor ever who get people to care about this annoying, shitty nerd.
They were like, we have to find from a laboratory someone that is sellable as a person who would be hanging out in the back of Forbidden Planet, not being paid, just hanging out,
Yeah.
and also incredibly fuckable. And the multimedia monopoly fucking mega corporation probably had to go up to their space AI and be like, where do we find this man? And out of WME or CAA found Jason Ralph, and they were like, perfect. I mean, yeah, I'll leave it at that. I'm not going to say anything else.
I feel like I say a lot of fucking filthy things on this podcast, but and this feels like overly sexual. I don't know why, but like he has the prettiest mouth. Like the like curve of his mouth.
That's the most important part. That's the most important part.
Ugh.
Anything that draws attention to your mouth is good, as they say in Clueless.
Cher never lied.
I'm getting ahead of myself a bit now, but it's kind of like it's where they really fucked up with Alice, because they just found like a really hot blonde with massive boobs and then put her in like librarian glasses and we're like, she's a shy, weird nerd and no one likes her. And it's like, I just don't believe you.
I think that's Sydney Sweeney. I don't think that I think we're looking at different people.
I did, especially this watch, I did think about that with Alice, because like they don't even dress her like she's like, I feel like those outfits are cute. They put her in and it's like, okay, but like what about her makes her like this awkward shy nerd? Because like
a Peter Pan collar cannot work that hard.
Yeah.
No, she looks like one of the most fuckable girl at the Gossip Girl school, not the nerdiest girl at the magician dominatrix factory or whatever.
Just we need a little more length in her bottom like skirt / pant, like short choices if we're gonna believe it. Like that is like there's some a little short a lot of the time for a nerd.
And yeah, like nothing wrong with it, but it just like doesn't convey like shy nerd.
Oh yeah, I mean she looks great, but not shy nerd great.
Yeah.
The show's aesthetic really benefited from coming off the like hipster messy sort of DIY of it all. But it didn't benefit from the fact that all clothes at that era were like so skinny fit, so taper fit. Like the technology had just been developed for skinny jeans, and like people were like, I'm going to deploy this in every area of my life. And like everything being so like form fitting and less like messy doesn't give them as much room if they want to stay within like fashionable. Then they have to sort of stay within the like Banana Republic to Forever 21 area of plausibility. And like, I don't know, if we had waited a little bit, we could have got some like messier sort of normcore or like Y2K nerd-y coded stuff, and it still would have looked cool. And it's interesting because it's so different than Buffy, where like Buffy's palette was so of like styles that they were sort of pulling from was so spot on for what they needed, if that makes sense. Like lesbian witches.
Right. Well, like Allison Hannigan was hot, but like they did dress her in these like hideous sweaters that whilst now I'm like, but that looks cute on her. It's like, yes, that is a nerd.
It was Sears coded.
Yeah.
Explicitly.
I feel like if they made the magicians now, they would just go full dark academia. And people at Brakebills would have, I mean, they even in the Welters episode, not to get too ahead, but like they're giving it that sort of like very goth preppy.
Yeah.
And they lean into that at times, but yeah, it's so 2016. Like Elliot's suit is like sprayed onto him.
I know,
and he looks great.
Oh, of course you love it, Ian.
I dressed like that back then. I
feel like now.
I still have some vests.
He looks like he just dropped his mason jar cocktail. Like,
he probably did actually.
He probably fucking did. I mean, we're dragging me a little bit here, but you know, fair. I was gonna say the one time I went to London. So the Urban Outfitters there, Philip, they're not here. They don't sell suits here, but they do over there. And I bought like a suit vest that it was for a suit, but I bought it by itself because at the time, I don't even remember who, I had the families and friend discount at Urban Outfitters because like a close friend worked there and it worked in London. So it took 50% off and it was a very expensive, I think I paid like $120 in American dollars with the 50% off. So I was like,
in those days money too. So we're talking like you could have bought a fucking, I don't know, car.
And I held on to that vest until it fucking deteriorated. Like I wore it with every outfit. If you look through my Facebook, there are like 85 photos of me wearing it. Like, so yes, I
It's people who bought those expensive Beyonce Renaissance cowboy hats and now are just wearing them to anyone's concert because it was $1,200.
He's a country musician again, though, y'all. So
true. Double D.
When I went to Chicago with Zach and his husband, I like went to the outside of the concert because I'm not really a concert gal. I like was gonna walk around the city. I went to the outside of the concert and they had a like merch tent, and I was like, maybe I'll buy myself something cute. I like Beyonce. Oh my god, everything was so expensive. I was like, all right, I'm not gonna buy anything. I'm good. And the cowboy hat was sold out, and we were there an hour early, and the cowboy hat was already sold out at that like stand. Because I was thinking of buying one.
So Quentin and Julia, they go their separate ways, but are each then kind of spirited into Brakebills.
Did we mention that they find a dead body? I don't know if I even said that. I don't know if I said those words.
No.
Said the crime.
Like they make a joke that like he was diabetic and that's why he died. And again, I'm like, does that come back? That must come back.
I was wondering that too. I'm not sure, but we'll see. We'll find out, I guess.
Yeah. So a man gets donated to death, and then they are spirited away to Brakebills. And the immediate thing that I like is it's not doing Hogwarts, it's doing American University campus. Like there are full on just like office buildings on that campus. And I like that it's this mix of like traditional sort of academic campus and then like modern. But yeah, so then they are both invited to take this magical exam, and Quentin passes it and Julia does not. Discuss.
I love when Elliot says, or when Quentin says, am I hallucinating? And Elliot just like in the best voice that I can't do says, if you were, how would asking help? It's just like a perfect introduction to their characters and their relationship to me. Like,
and magician logic
so much.
And like, I do love that first meeting of them when he's like laying there all sexy, like smoking a cigarette, and then like looks at the card, is like, Quentin Coldwater, and Quentin's just like, yeah. He gets up and he like checks him out. He like looks him up and down and is like, you're late. Like he doesn't say like, ooh, you're hot, but that's what he's thinking. And then he's like, all right, follow me.
Oh, saying you're late is rom-com for you're hot.
Our resident rom-com writer, ladies and gentlemen. So this is where this for me was sped up too much for how much information we get, because I didn't quite understand. So Julia just like suddenly is also like, it feels like Julia would not have been part of it, right? Like the fact that she's so like, oh, Quentin, get over it, blah, blah, blah. Like that makes me feel like she was not into magic and she would not have been brought to take this.
Well,
test.
I think I like this because it shows us that he wasn't picked just because he's a believer. He was picked for other reasons. He just happens to also have believed in this kind of stuff or like been hyperfixated on it. But I also like, it's abrupt for him too. And like, this is just like a crazy thing that and you're like, does that what am I like? I kind of like the disoriented feeling of it.
Okay.
But it does make it weird later because then they explain to you Julia didn't get in and you're like, and then they wiped her memory. Like, we'll get there, but you're like, this is, I don't know. It's sort of like, so why does it matter to her? Like, it's not like it was built up. Like, she doesn't care. She said she doesn't care. Like, and we didn't really get enough of her, like, I want whatever avenue of power will let me execute. Like, we didn't get like a goal from her. So the disorientingness of it and the abruptness of it, I don't think is bad, but it doesn't feel like they subverted my expectations with a character trait. It just felt like they did something weird.
Yeah, I think that conversation that she has later with Quentin in this episode about like that's this episode, right? When they're at her birthday party.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think that's really helpful to us when Quentin's like, oh, you just didn't want to be bad at something. You know, I think that's really illuminating for like her in that moment. Like, I wouldn't want to forget. I'd be furious.
Yeah.
I'd be like, no, these are my memories. You can't have them. Like, I need to remember. Like, even just that would be enough for me to like try to do something to get me to remember.
I did think in that scene, I was like, I wonder how many people have like got up and like tried to physically fight that professor before he mind wiped them. Because I feel like I wouldn't know what to do, and I'd just start like throwing shit off his desk and like throwing it at him to try to get away, and I would not get away. But
it was a moment where we're getting a lot of like talking out loud exposition that probably wouldn't happen in real life because they just do the thing. Like, we're not going to tell you we're about to make you forget. We're just going to make you forget. That's
true. Yeah, that's fair. And so they like meet up after the test. Then we learn that she didn't pass. And I like the way we see Quentin first do magic. Like, I like that it's like, I like Dean Fogg. I really do. I think Dean Fogg is such a good, not like you said, Ryan, they subvert expectations so often. He's not the type of like mentor, like figurehead of like this prestigious magic school that would be in a normal series, right? Like normally that person wouldn't be kind of an asshole, but Dean Fogg is, and I like that because he's kind of an asshole, but he does care, right? He's not like fuck these kids. He's just like, God, these fucking kids.
Yeah.
So I like that when he's like, just do the goddamn spell to Quentin and just like screaming at him, and then Quentin's
So
cards.
hot.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
So
And
hot. I'm like,
Quentin,
oh, okay. Boo.
yeah, I'm like, ooh. And I like that the cards go flying everywhere. And then like Quentin, I appreciate that he's like, oh, I'm doing this. And because I was wondering, I'm like, but has he ever seen himself do magic? And it's like, oh no, he has not. This is the first time he's seen, because he even fucking passes out, right? And I like that. I like that as like, oh shit, how am I doing this? That reminded me of X-Men, where like, oh, they just like hit puberty and then their powers go wild and they're like, shit. So I don't know. Curious what y'all thought.
I like how they explained how it's not that easy. Like they give them like a little, I forget exactly how they say it. They're like, oh, like we're like doing something so that it makes that possible for you to do that. Like you actually really have to learn. It's not just this thing you do willy-nilly.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a great explanation for that moment and how they like help them, but also now you're in school for this. So we're not just going to sprinkle the pixie dust. We're going to give you all the tools that you need to do the thing.
And also like similar to school, they're not like, here's how everything works. They're like, you're not going to know till the end. So like, it's magic. You're going to have to accept that, start learning some stuff, and then you can get the philosophy of like why it exists and like all that stuff later. And that is kind of what university is like. You go there and you're like, I want to be an actor. And they're like, great. And you're like, okay, so tell me how to act. And they're like, if we could do that and explain what acting is, we wouldn't have 4 years to like teach you how to do dramaturgy. So like get in line. And it's good and it's bad, right? Because you're like, okay, so this is a way to like learn something from the bottom up, and they're giving themselves a lot of space to like work in, and like they're going to take us with them to learn about magic. And that's kind of an adventure in itself, rather than just being like, this is how the magic system works. But at the same time, they could have just told us how the magic system works, and it would have been an enormous advantage. And maybe you don't need 4 years to learn how it works and what the like dynamics are. Because we're sitting here and I thought maybe he passed out because like, you know, if I'm a first time viewer, I might have thought like, oh, he passed out because it was so draining, and magic like is physically
like
draining. Like we don't really know what it is yet.
That's fair. Yeah. Also, I'm curious what we think. I hilariously, right after watching this episode last night, I looked up trivia because there isn't a lot of Magicians trivia online. Like, you know, Buffy.
The wiki is dead.
Yeah, like so dead. Like Buffy, every episode has like 20 pieces of trivia, but also is a 25-year-old show. I tried looking up trivia for this, and when I found a quiz, it was like a quiz on the first episode of The Magicians. I only got a 70, and I had just finished watching the episode.
There's a lot.
There's so much. So I like this, but I don't like this when he says like, maybe you won't need the meds. I'm glad Dean Fogg doesn't say like, you absolutely don't. He just says, we hope you won't. And then Quentin hands him over.
My fucking hobby horse is wheeling on out. That when I found out I was autistic, I ended up not needing to be on most of the fucking medications I was on to treat all the things I had pathologized that were symptoms of untreated and unsupported autism. And like, when I realized like who I really was and how I actually work, and like that there's something wrong with me, it was like, oh, I get burned out. I don't need to be on stimulants. I get burned out. Like I don't need something to make me wake up. Or like, oh, like, you know, I have trouble socializing. It's not that like I'm depressed. It's that I find that really draining, and I'm trying to force more out of myself than I can do. And I did appreciate the like finding that your place, or finding out who you are, or finding out like what your path is a legitimate way to feel better and to like understand why you don't feel good. And to me, it made sense, but I also understand that like the message of like, just get something you want and then you won't be depressed anymore is not like a good message.
Yeah.
It wasn't like as clearly constructed, but I do kind of think the metaphor can hold. It's just like would have held better with glue.
Yeah, I'm glad that they didn't basically say, "Oh, yeah, you're not crazy, you're magic," and the pills are like stopping you accessing your powers. Because I've seen that in other kind of sci-fi and fantasy media before, and it's just like even in a fantasy context, maybe that's not the most helpful thing to have in there. But yeah, I like Ryan. I really like your interpretation because it absolutely that fits like in this story.
It does. Yeah. Once you said that, I'm like, okay, yeah, I buy it. Kim?
Yeah, I didn't really like that part either. But yeah, I can see it going both ways. I forgave that part even before Ryan's explanation. But like,
yeah, same, yeah.
Not my favorite.
So then we go to what is it?
There's like a dream. Quentin dreams about Jane Chatwin from the books.
Right. I did not put any notes about that. I just
and then wakes up in he and Penny's room.
Okay, so my notes, I've made very few notes for this because I was actually just so busy watching it, and you have to really give it your attention. But one of my few notes is Penny is so hot. Everyone is so hot. Penny's clothes are ridiculous.
I was texting my boyfriend. I was like, "Oh my God, I forgot how hot Penny is. I'm so sorry." Like, whew.
It's funny because I forgot how much I didn't like Penny at the beginning, but he is very fucking hot.
It's like the character, especially in these early episodes, is written to be so antagonistic, kind of, and we will learn why maybe he has all of these walls up, but like at the beginning, it's just like, wow, he's being horrible to everyone, kind of for no reason. So like, again, to make this palatable, let's hire the most beautiful man.
Yeah. That is true. It's like, all right, I'll deal with it because he's so fucking hot.
Yeah.
So he wakes up in their room, and then we also get Julia waking up, and then she's searching the internet for, I didn't pause it to see, but I'm pretty sure Brokeville College, which was kind of funny to me considering like Yale and like Brokeville are like not synonymous in any way. And then we go back to Brakebills, and Q's in the dean's office talking to him.
Oh, right. I skipped ahead in my notes. That's why.
Oh, so that was the medication chat.
And then we go on tour with Margot and Elliot. And it's like the Mean Girls tour, it's like
I show up on screen. Representation for me.
Kim, that's my note say. It's like, it's Magical Mean Girls tour. Also, Margot's introduction is so fucking good. She breezes in looking gorgeous and is like, that's him. He's not that cute. Hi, I'm Margot. And then like has a giggle and like swooshes her hair and just walks right out of the fucking room. And it's like, ooh.
That's me after FFS.
That's you at Slayerfest 98 live shows.
See you in October. Thanks, Dr. Zismore.
I just think it's like so good because it's such a short introduction, but it kind of tells you everything about her because she does smile, right? She's not trying to be like a total fucking dickhead. She's like being like jokey and flirty, and to her, that's what that is. And I just love it.
Listen, female neurodivergence representation on screen. She's not a mean person. She's direct. She's honest. She does not waste her time or your time. If that hurts your feelings, that's something you should probably work on. You can be vulnerable and strong. Figure that out. Have a good one. I think that's great. Like, I love the opinion too of like a femme or a weirdo or like someone who sticks out, even if it's for a good thing, like being super attractive and thinking like, when you are looked at with judgment, the thing that gives me the most strength is to think like, you should probably be asking me for advice. I'm happy. I'm self-actualized. I'm standing here with people judging me and feeling nothing about it. You are worried about what I'm wearing because it's too specific. Like, you should be coming to me for some answers. And I like that energy. And I don't think it makes her a bad person, but it does set her up for someone that's going to be prickly and perhaps antisocial at moments. And it makes her a really good foil for Elliot too, because it reinforces his edge.
Yeah.
But she also softens him by being someone that she's clearly like not antagonistic with.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. They work so well. Team Rocket.
And it's when the show like you get that first taste of like, oh, like here's like the spice and the acidity, and like here's like the color and the warmth that are going to make Brakebills such a fun place to hang out. Like the party is here now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it only gets better from here because the writing for Margot is barely there on the page. I think so much of that is Summer's performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like, yeah, it just gets better and better and better. Yeah.
And Elliot really is the heart of the show. So, like, to finally feel that warmth, like you said, come in next to someone who went to the Charisma Carpenter School of Cordelia Chase's. I mean,
and like, I think about Jane Espenson would say that like she loved writing Anya, like she loved writing dialogue for Emma Caulfield. And that's what I imagine the writers, like, as they were going on with the show, they're like, oh, fuck, she's really, like, let's write more lines for her because she fucking nails it every time. Like, I would imagine a character like that would be fun to write, right? Like,
actors you can trust, that is like, then you can do whatever you want to do. It's like with improv, you find people who can say yes.
Yeah.
I'm writing my third book right now, and once again, my favorite character to write is the character that could be written off as a bitch, but like you just keep finding more and more specific, weird ways to make them like fucking fun.
Yeah. But I think too, it's not just her; it's also like Margot and Elliot. Like you couldn't. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure fine. Like they could find something awesome to do with like Summer Bishel, no matter what. But like, what makes her character so good is him, and what makes his character so good is her. In like a overall sense, I think.
Yeah, because they're, I mean, like no spoilers, but they do, I feel like together, it's like that is like the relationship I love the most. And they kind of do become the heart. Yeah.
Well, we love a show where the main love story is not necessarily a romantic or sexual one. It's just these people are soulmates and their connection and their chemistry is so obvious that Quentin is being just drawn into that, and then we as viewers are being seduced as well.
Yes, because I do think that's a good point, because Quentin still chooses to hang out with them. They are legitimately welcoming him in, right? Like they are. And like real on paper, it feels like those characters would not hang out, right? Like Quentin would not, they would kind of be...
But this is part of the like neurodivergent thing for me, where it's like sometimes you find people that it's just easy to talk to and they're so different than you, but for some reason there's a wavelength that you're all on. Sometimes I look around at my party of people that are from all over my life, and I'm like, oh, the one thing we all have in common is like the ability to like talk in this specific way. And when you see their like little language with each other and their ease with each other, it's like you fall in love with how happy they are in it, if that makes sense.
Also, like, they're all, like, hot. Right? And it doesn't matter, like, who... I mean, when you're younger, so they're supposed to be in their early 20s, right? So if you're attracted to someone, kind of put up with them regardless. And
that's true.
They're the upperclassmen, right? They've been there for a while. They're supposed to, like, draw people in and, like, make them feel welcome. They are, like, that's their job in that moment. So you pick the ones you're attracted to, I guess.
And you also get the feeling that maybe Elliot and Margot have had, playthings in the past, and Quentin might just be the new, twink on campus. And then he ends up being kind of, obviously, they become this very close unit. But at the moment, it's very much like they're two cats playing with their food.
Yeah,
they're like new seniors doing the fall musical, and they're like, "Oh, you didn't know about Last Looks."
And I gotta say, when Summer and I did that one like Patreon episode together, I think I said something to her like, "Oh, my best friend Kim and I always say we wish we were as cool as Margot and Elliot," and Summer saying, "I wish I was as cool as Margot. Are you kidding me?" And I was like, that does make me feel better that even you don't, even like the actor who portrayed the character is like, I'm not that cool. Like, so then we get Penny and Katie, right? Penny and Katie for me are a little bit of the weakest link at the top of the season, because it's like weirdly removed, and also they feel so... They both could read as queer, especially Katie, but they just feel so aggressively heterosexual to me, like in their like angsty relationship.
They're like a couple that works at PacSun.
Yeah, yes. And she's like annoyingly like into her retail job and like the numbers and the sales and whatever, and like
she's always talking about like the shit that went down with her stepmom who like lives in the side of her house.
Yes.
He's just like, when are we going surfing?
Yeah.
They're every like that I had in my notes as well. It's just like that this couple that they're trying so hard to make us invested, but also it's reading as two queer people who are trying to convince themselves they're straight,
Yes.
Again, KD is written as like it's like somebody's writing Faith fanfic.
Yes.
She's like so from the wrong side of the tracks, and she's got like the Tatiana Maslany and Orphan Black like side braid.
She's like, I owe the mob 10 grand. You're like, what?
And again, like we get to a great place with them later on, but like especially in this first episode, it reminded me as well of like the start of The Expanse. They were like, this is like a sci-fi show when we're going to be like having sex in zero gravity, and they do it like once, and then they're like, oh, that looked kind of goofy. We're not going to bother doing that again. And so Katie and Penny do that here.
And I mean, who wouldn't like to have magical sex? That does sound great. Like,
yeah,
sure.
I don't know. I didn't notice any of this because I was too busy just like looking at how hot they were. So I don't know what to tell y'all.
Fair.
Oh my God, they are so hot. I mean,
so then we cut to campus the next day. They are walking. They walk by Alice. We see Margot, Elliot, and Quentin sitting, and like this is when we learn a little bit more about Alice, right? Because Margot
tries to call her over, and like, and Alice is like, "You're just making fun of me," and Margot's like, "No," and I'm like, yeah.
I think Margot was like, if she came over, I do think Margot was like, yeah, come over.
Yeah, like, no, I agree.
Okay, yeah. I was like, I don't really think she's being an asshole. Like, I think she's like, she has like you said, Philip, she does have the cat, like I almost said catness, which cat-esque like actions, like the way she's like, like she's like purring like a cat, but is like has her claws out as well.
And why not want to be friends with the person who is best at magic? Like,
right.
For their year. Like that's someone like, sure, yeah, come into my little circle, but also someone who's going to be like very carefully selecting the people that they interact with. So
Yes.
I also read it as like some people communicate in a way that is overly familiar.
Yes.
But like as someone who does drag and lives in New York, like, yeah, I interrupt people all the time. To me, that's affectionate. To me, that's like, it's not insulting. It's like, it's me being so excited and feeling so safe and like wanting to just like get words out, and then you can be excited and get them back at me. And like, that's how I talk. And there is actually like a word for it, which is collaborative overlapping. And it's like a cultural phenomena. And I get the sense that like, it's a similar thing. I'm an oldest sibling. So like I neg people. Like, I don't know. Sometimes I'm just like, here, stop hitting yourself. Isn't that funny? And it is funny to me. And it's just something that you do. But I have dated a lot of people who are only children, and they're like, why are you bullying me? And I do think that maybe her energy is a little like, get your skanky ass over here. And she's like, you just called me skanky.
Right. Yeah. I think that's correct. It's like a little bit that energy, but she did mean it.
And we also we do learn this episode that Alice is a younger child, so you know that tracks.
Yeah,
yeah, and like
neglectful parents. Yeah,
she comes from a magical family. Blah blah blah. Alice gives them the look she gives Margot. Like I feel like she like sticks out her jaw and is like, and then just like walks away.
Alice is the one being like the unfriendly hottie.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes. Because guess what? At the end of the day, guess who the mean girl in Mean Girls is? It's Janice Ian.
Like, I do feel like, again, it goes to our point of like, Alice is fashionable and gorgeous. Like, she doesn't look like, oh, I'm being picked on. Oh, poor me.
She's like, a rich bitch.
Yeah. Like, it doesn't read as like, oh, the poor nerdy girl who like is frumpy. It's like, no, this like hot person who's rich is like, mean mugging Margot and Elliot and Quentin and walking away without saying anything. But whatever. Then he follows her to the library, and that's when she's like, oh, your friends are cruel and unoriginal. And I was like, what the fuck? Like,
again, it's sort of, I feel like we're being told these things rather than shown them in any meaningful way. And it's
which is going to happen in a pilot. Let's be fair.
Right.
We're setting up each archetype of these characters so that then they can go on and subvert them and give them lots of nuance. But we're starting with like very broad strokes and very, primary colors kind of thing.
And so I wanted to point out another way that I relate to Quentin. He does the exact thing I do whenever anyone of like, if it's a friend that I love and a friend that I love, and this friend said something that this friend misinterpreted as mean, I will go to I will do the most mental gymnastics in the world to blame myself and be like, no, I helped them misinterpret. how to feel about that. That's why they said it in that tone. Don't be mad at them. Like, I do that all the fucking time. And that's what Quentin does when he's like, well, no, they were doing that because I said I was jealous of you and blah, blah, blah.
People pleasing, control issues, hero complex. Yeah, all those things.
Welcome to Slayerfest.
I'm just negging you. I'm negging you.
Are you kidding? When you were like talking about the interrupting, I was like, oh, Ryan, that's what we did when you came to my apartment when we were setting up. It was just like us taking turns interrupting each other talking.
Yeah, like, hey, shut up for a second. But I saw a dragon on TV. While we were talking about death.
Yeah, intermixed with my mom died. I'm sad. Oh, what about a dragon? So then she does say that, what does she say? Her family didn't help her learn magic at all, right? Which, like,
Nepo baby recourse, like,
that was one of the questions I got wrong on that fucking quiz I took last night. So it was like, no, Alice did not learn magic from her family. It's like, okay, but like, she still would have learned.
There's like books in her house, and she's a nerd. Like, she read the magic books.
They taught her how to magically take the trash out, so she would magically take the trash.
So she would do it. Like, there's no way, even if they were like the most awful, like, she just would pick it up from them. So she would like learn.
She learned about the existence of magic.
There's magical artifacts in her house. Like,
right.
So safe.
And like, I was thinking about it like with like, you know, my mom didn't like teach me Spanish as a kid, but like I picked it up from listening to her and my grandma talking Spanish, you know, like, I don't know, it's just what you do.
Like, you know, inherited trauma.
That's not how she wants to position herself. So we're not judging the writing here. We're judging Alice.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
To be like, woe is you. Like, though not woe, we had this magical family. Like, whoa, my brother was killed mysteriously. Like, that's really, that's her MO here.
That's the thing where it's like, yes, that is something, Nepo baby or not, you feel bad for, right? It's like, oh shit, your brother was killed. You don't even know how he died. Like, ooh.
And I forgot that we, like, again, they packed so much into the pilot. It's like, oh, we're doing like a magical murder mystery in week 1.
Yeah, that pays off later.
Right. And again, that contributes to like so much of like the world building, and Alice's kind of like series long arc starts right here. So he talks to Alice there. He sees a sigil in the book, and then has another dream about Jane Chatwin, where then the sigil gets burned into his hand.
I don't think we're there yet, though. We're
not there yet.
We got to get back to Julia.
This is when he's on the phone, a payphone, which like nothing has dated the series more than him being on a payphone.
Yeah, even at the time, it was like, I guess this is for like a New Yorkie moment,
right? Like,
I've literally never seen this in New York, and I've lived here since dawn of time. So.
I have a question as well. So, like, Brakebills is in upstate New York. Is that like a joke that they say because it's literally night in New York, and then they go to Brakebills and it's daytime?
Yeah, I think it's like a simulated pocket universe version of New York, or like a New York that's behind a magical wall of barriers where they can just set it to be whatever they need it to be.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of what I figured, but
yeah. I do feel like does Brakebills always stay so well lit, or do they kind of make it gray moving like in season 2?
It's pretty well lit outside of scenes where it's like empty classrooms, stuff like that. Okay. But the reason it really resonates is I went to a college in upstate New York that was like, looked like an Ivy and like presented itself, but obviously was not actually an Ivy. And like, that is part of the corporate sort of overly engineered Disney World style aesthetic you see on campuses like that. Like, I literally never had to leave my campus. It was like a contained resort. And I feel like Brakebills does have this feeling that it's like the set of a magical university, but not that it's not real, but in the way that like it feels very isolated. It feels very like a pocket like world. And I like that the like stuff like the details like the weather and stuff helps set the tone, but it also doesn't make any sense for it to be daytime. Like, I guess you could be like, magicians come from all over and we're using universal standard time, but like,
I mean, maybe, yeah, because I was like, if it was always daytime, it would work, but then they have like night as well. So
yeah.
But I guess it helps create that immediate contrast between like the quote unquote real world and the magical world. But
yeah.
So he's on a payphone with James, Julia's boyfriend. Elliot and Margot walk up, just like they see him, they walk up to him. We learn that Julia has kind of like not been doing well since Brakebills, right? Like, he says that she won't even talk to him. And we see that she's on the computer with her headphones in and she's like fully not engaging with him. And then he reminds Quentin that it's her birthday. So they go to Brooklyn because I love that Elliot's like, you won't get back here without us. We're going to go with you. And they just go to get trashed.
So is it black tie or like they're just like they're into like, oh, party in New York City, we're there.
Yeah.
It's so college though, where people are just tagging along. I miss that shit.
I know. So we go to this bar in Brooklyn.
Again, so many slouchy beanies.
Yeah. The fashion but it did feel like a Brooklyn bar. I felt like it did like look like a Brooklyn-y dive bar.
Yeah.
She blankly hugs.
Metropolitan vibes.
Yes. She blankly hugs Q, then goes up to the bar, and we see a man sitting at the bar who is familiar. Will be familiar. She then goes outside. Like her and that guy have like what? He says something like,
"Is it your-" to him? Yeah.
Yeah. She goes outside. Quentin joins her. I do like that we don't bullshit when she's like, she talks about Brakebills and she's like, and if you say what's Brakebills, I'm going to stab you. And he doesn't like bullshit her. He just is like, okay, yes. Like, I appreciate that. I also do feel like then, I mean, but all of you said this earlier, like, he's then kind of like, they're both antagonistic. This, because like, he is kind of an asshole. He's not fully incorrect, but he just, the delivery there is like not great for your friend who's like going through it.
Yeah. And when he's like, oh, the people at Brakebills they can read minds, they can fly, you can do a pie trick. And it's like, you got in by making a house of cards.
Yeah. Like,
you threw cards and they didn't immediately fall down.
Like, my dude, yours wasn't that great either. Like, you're not reading a mind.
His arguments are really bad. He's like, no, they would know. It's like, you just met them.
Yeah.
They would know. Like,
oh, we love authority now? Oh, now we love it. Oh,
look,
okay.
He's scared that if Julia got into Brakebills, everyone would like her more. And that she would become Elliot and Margot's new favorite. They wouldn't want to hang out with him. Like he's always been like the insecure weirdo and the outsider. And the fact that he's been welcomed in, he's like now like really like protective of that. And it's kind of like it's ugly to see, but it makes sense for his character.
Yeah.
And at that age, when you have something and someone else doesn't, and that person usually has everything. Mm-hmm. And she was the one who introduced the idea of like, well, it's the age we have to have tough love for each other.
Yeah.
So
because like if he had said, dude, there's nothing I can do. I'm a freshman. Like I just started.
Yeah.
I have no, like that would have been like, I mean, he's right? Like there really isn't anything he can do to like change Dean Fogg's mind. He's been there for 3 days. So like if he had just said that, it would have been like, I mean,
she's being unreasonable and he's being like the worst friend he could be about it. And like, how do you pick? I'm both of you. Could we cut it out?
It's very like they both have to kind of say and do the worst thing just to set each of their plots off in motion the rest of the season. And it's like, so you can feel the hand of the writer a little bit. But ultimately I forgive it because as you say, Ian, like if we'd had a season of Julia being like, oh, I think I remember something about a place called Brokeville University, and it would be like her trying to like track down Brakebills, it would suck so much life and energy out of the show. So I like that she's immediately like, no, I found a way to remember. I figured it out for myself. Come on, we're all on the same page and we don't waste any time.
Yeah, because like she even says, I don't know how she even says like she cut herself, but like realistically, she could have just been like, you know, who hasn't woken up and been like, where's that from? And that's what she could have thought. And she does say like,
Ian,
I don't know.
Do we need to talk?
You never like woken up and been like, I got a bruise here. I've like cut my nose in my sleep.
No, I don't normally wake up and be like, I sliced my arm open. I have no memory of it. If that's happening to you, let's get off the podcast.
That is not, I just meant like in general sometimes. Like,
okay.
I don't know. Anyway, so I like that. And she's like, maybe I'm a mutant. But then I'm just the thing that kept bothering me, which I felt like we get so much plot, but then we speed through this is like, no one is like, neither of them seem too surprised. Like she does the thing with her hands and like, I don't know, that's pretty fucking cool. Like I just wish we had gotten a little bit more from her of like, rather than seeing her like spiraling, I kind of would have liked to see when the first time she was like, holy shit, wait, I could do this. Like, I don't know. Like, but I know we don't need it Quentin's a main character. She's like the second main character, but like
it's a 12-episode season.
yeah, but like
it's
you know,
fun. It's fun when you have an episode where Sabrina's like, pineapple, pineapple, ah! Like that is a fun pilot, but that's not what we're doing here, and it sucks to lose it. But it's an example, I think, of like a real world constraint coming.
Yeah,
into
that's
the
true.
show.
Yeah.
But we could have got a short montage.
Yeah, like maybe while she's sitting there, like on the computer, we see that she is like looking up spells and like, is magic
Speaking
real?
of Charmed, they did a fun thing of that for Paige, where she just sort of ran around and was like, "I'm going to use it on this. I'm going to use it on this. I'm going to fix the printer." Like,
so Elliot, Margot, and Quentin leave. Julia goes in the bathroom.
I hate this scene.
Yes, I hate this.
I get that it established. Okay, so they go in the bathroom. She's chained. She gets chained up magically in this like very clear sexual assault allegory.
To her own shirt that's been pulled off.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's she's having a panic attack. She's clearly like struggling to react to the surge. Very uncomfortable, very out of left field, not something I like watching. I do like that it introduces that there will be adult themes and things will take really dark turns and you will watch uncomfortable things. Like, but always doing that to female bodies unexpectedly is getting old, even in 2015. And it's a little hard to watch now that this is how they motivate her, and like no,
it's unnecessary, just like hands down. Like the whole, even if that's what happens, do we really have to watch it in that way? You know, I feel like they could have given us something different to watch that has the same effect, you know, and even could be the like very rapey thing, but like it's just too much, you know.
Yeah. And it is foreshadowing. Like, I'm not, we have stuff coming that, but they build to that and they discuss it in a very different way.
Yeah.
When they talk about issues like that in the future, when things come up in the future that are actually traumatic and triggering for people in the audience, there's more of a slow build. And this did feel clumsy, but I don't want to say you can't do this.
I mean, it's
like,
a pilot too. Like I feel like we're throwing everything we can into this to show you like what like the show is capable of. So like it's like, I don't know. I don't know if this is a good comparison, but I'd given someone my book to read before it was my book. And he was like, you got to put the more shocking things at the beginning. You know, these poems, you've kind of buried them here, though you got to move them up front. So I maybe it's a little of that.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah. It's a really good point. Like you have to kind of show the whole menu.
Yeah. And like, I guess what also bothers me is the fact that he does say to her, like, ooh, how does it feel that I could do anything? And then later when she like says, like, what are you, a psycho rapist? He's like, no, I would never. And it's like, but my dude, you did fucking say that. Like, not crazy that she would think that.
It's different when Margot negs you and then is like, I'm actually your friend, when a man like threatens sexual assault and then is like,
yeah.
Like, what?
This was the moment where I texted Jude and I was like, told you the pace was weird. Like as soon as like we flipped from like the I'm about to sexually assault you to like the haha, just kidding. Like I was like, like I told you the pace of the show is weird.
Yeah, the tones, like there's just all the tones.
Yeah.
But it does show you magic can be used for anything. Nobody's stepping in.
Right.
There's like, it's similar to like saying, like, if we want to say they're neurodivergent, I would say like all the darkness is capitalism. I won. But like, you do get the sense that like this is a free for all. Like it's similar to the line of like, you want to go conquer Earth, be my guest, Rita Repulsa. Like it's whatever you want it to be. And again, sexual assault out of nowhere, logistically, that's also a problem because I didn't love it.
Yeah. And like, I mean, it's a credit to her acting, but like, I hate her like squeaky screams because I'm like, oh no, I hate this because it feels so intense. The fact that she's like doing those like absolutely terrified squeaky screams that like you only do when you are like fully panicked and you're making weird noises.
This is a second watch for us. Right? Like, we, like, when I saw that guy at the bar, I was like, that guy looks familiar, you know? So, like, it was in my head. I was like, I feel like he's going to come back in some way. Like, in my head, I'm saying that. I couldn't quite place it. So, like, I forget what it was like to watch it for the first time.
Yeah. I don't remember, honestly. But yeah, so we get that. He says, we have been watching you for quite a while. She says, who's we? Then this is when Quentin has his other dream about Jane, and he gets the symbol. We know she's Jane, right? We do know that's Jane. That's not like a spoiler,
She
is it?
tells him that she's Jane Chatwin, yeah.
Okay.
And she's shown at the beginning walking into the clock.
Oh, right.
It's like a very good character design because it's immediately like, oh, it's the young girl in the beret and the cape. So like you can't mistake her for somebody else.
That's true. Yeah. I do feel like she's a little not helpful, right? It's like, girl, just say the thing. Like, why are we like dancing around riddles? Just like be like, this is what's happening. This is what you need to do. And I think she even says like, I've said too much, and it's like, you haven't said enough. Come on. Like,
I mean, but again, on my own hobby horse of metaphors, it's like, this is the kind of stuff when people give you life advice and they're like, you've got to take it day by day. Okay, that's what I thought I was doing.
Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah. But then when you get it, you're like, oh yeah, there's no, I get why you said it like that.
So yeah, Jane says, is it stick to the garden path or the guided path? And this is when she burns the symbol into his hand, and then it conveniently disappears, but only after he's already shown it to Alice. And she's like, oh, I'm researching this ritual to find out what happened to my brother. So I'm just aware that we've been all over the place. So I'm trying to get us back on track.
You're doing a great job.
Yeah.
You're on.
My brother died. We're going to have like a summoning spell, like a seance essentially, but they need 4 people. So then they hold the ritual, and Penny is guided by a voice, a strange voice that we don't know who it is yet, because we're only talking about episode 1, to come and help them.
Okay. Wait. Okay, great. Because, as we said, we've already recorded 5. This is my 5th episode. I recorded the other 4 before this. I was like, why the fuck is Penny just like showing up? What happened? What am I missing? Like I was very annoyed. And I'm assuming that we learned in those 5 episodes.
You learn either in 1 or 2, because I know why.
Okay.
I know whose voice it is, yeah.
I think I know whose voice it is then. But like, I was just, my notes were like, ask everyone else why they got there. How were they there? I'm confused. Like, I was like,
he was like hearing, and they wrote it off as him being psychic because like he can hear thoughts. And stuff.
Yeah, it's in episode 2 where he specifically talks about the voice and how he doesn't say it out loud. But if you haven't watched episode 2, it's at the beginning of episode 2, and you figure out who he's talking about if you pay attention. There we go.
So yeah, at 12 a.m. Sorry. So at midnight, they hold this ritual to summon the spirit of Alice's brother, and seemingly nothing happens, and they think it's a complete failure. And then do we immediately cut to the next morning in the same classroom, or is there anything in between?
Yeah, we go right to the next day.
Daytime in the next classroom. And I love this. So the only bit of trivia that I found out is that this scene that we're about to discuss was a dream that Lev Grossman had, and this was what gave him the idea for the entire book series.
Oh, I love that.
And in a coffee shop in Scotland.
We do briefly, before we get to the very last scene in the classroom, get a scene with Julia and what's his name?
We don't know his name yet, I don't think.
Okay, Julia and Dude going to like the kind of abandoned, what we'll find out, is the head witch place,
Oh, that's right, yeah.
But this is super brief,
And when they leave where they did the spell, we do see fog appear on the mirror and a smiley face, which I think is so good and creepy.
Mm-hmm.
It's so creepy. And again, it like reminded me immediately that in the pilot, they were like, oh yeah, this show is already so good at doing the horror elements because it's so creepy.
Yeah.
And it's such a simple, it's like, it's the Watchmen thing,
right?
But it's just like, it really works for me. So then all of our main Brakebills cast are in this. Oh, wait, no. So Elliot and Margot on it. So it's like,
I wish they were there.
The first year kids.
Quentin, Alice, Penny, Katie, and the teacher that I think was the person that wiped Julia's memory. Too.
I have nervous professor bores the students.
Yeah.
Right. Very that. And then, like, again, such a cool use of magic in the show. So it gets to 12 noon, so 12 hours exactly after they cast the spell, and the clocks all stop. And you think that time has stopped, but actually it's that physically everything has been like suspended because everybody is conscious and you can see their like eyes moving around, and it's again, it's that nightmare thing of like, oh my god, like I can't move.
And I love that the dean checks his watch and he's like, and he just starts like booking it across campus because he knows what's happening. I think that's such a good detail.
It's just a great way of like building the suspense and the terror. And then who should step through the mirror?
Are we allowed to say who? We're allowed to say who it is, right?
No, we don't know it.
Well, what the name of
the drag name?
Yeah, the drag name. We're allowed to say the drag name, right?
It's the Beast.
The Beast. Like we're allowed. That's what I mean. Like because I don't think they say the name in this, but that doesn't matter.
It's Cordelia Chase.
And again, such a great use of like horror imagery, like the moths in front of the face.
So good.
It's so simple but so good
and very original.
Yeah. It like, you know, the effects are a little bit dated now, but I still think that doesn't.
Oh, whose aren't? Have you seen the latest Marvel movies?
But like, who like they still work. I think it's still, even though it looks a little like it still works, and the like pulsing, throbbing music that they're playing as like all the moths are flying everywhere. So good at like upping the tension. Like you're like, fuck, what's this monster gonna do? Immediately kills the teacher. And like, I like that. I never noticed this before, that the feet do a little dance. Like as he's like walking up to kill the teacher, we see him doing like a 2-step with his feet. So he's doing like a little dance. I gotta point out, the person sitting next to Alice looks like Julio Torres. Like he's like dressed in a silvery, like shimmery top, has like the same haircut, but just doesn't look Hispanic. Yeah, I love everything about this. I could not believe the dean is blinded in the first episode. I did not remember him getting blinded in the first episode.
And like, it's not done super graphically, but it still feels really
gross,
gruesome.
Also, I gotta ask you all, do you all think that maybe the dean was supposed to die? Because not only does he pull out his eyes, but we see him like go at his face, and it sounds like he's eating his face, and then the dean falls over. Not when his eyes get pulled out, but like the monster leans in.
I do think there's supposed to be some ambiguity to bring you back
he's
in.
Like biting like here, and it's again, it's so visceral.
Yes.
Vampire-esque.
Yeah, but then I mean, spoiler, the dean doesn't die. We see him again.
Too hot.
But I do like, it's pretty brutal to watch, right? Like the dean comes in, he does a cool spell thing, which like, I feel like Marvel totally pulled from this, because like, that looks like the Doctor Strange magic, and like, this was first. I wonder if someone who did this show was like, motherfucker, watching Doctor Strange.
Oh, absolutely.
But like, the dean comes in and we're like, ooh, he's gonna save the day. He blasts this monster, and then the monster fucking breaks his arms and like hangs him and pulls out his eyeballs. And it is, again, like you all have said, it like does a good job of like being like, we're going to have a little bit of horror in this, and it's going to be done really fucking well. Yeah. And then we see the eyeballs like put on a fucking desk, and he makes a smiley face. And then Quentin drops the coin that he was spinning, and this monster knows Quentin, and he says, what does he say? Like, there you are, Quentin.
It says, hey, slut.
It's just such a deliciously creepy, and this is why, like, when I was first starting the show in 2020, I was like, well, obviously I'm going to watch the next episode immediately.
Yeah, my boyfriend and I watched the next one immediately also, even though I didn't have to. I was like, you want to watch another one? So yeah, we texted all through the next one as well.
Like, as much shit as I give the plot, like, I think this is such a good end to a first episode. Like, we're showing you the setting, we're showing you the characters, and then at the very end, we give you this big fucking, like, scary monster and, like, show you how brutal it will get. Because the man who is, like, the head of this school just, like, got his limbs broken and his eyeballs pulled out. And, like, that's not what you would expect to happen, right? Like, it's so good.
We flayed Dumbledore at the sorting ceremony.
Right.
Enjoy.
Like you said, Philip, I feel like describing it as like delicious is so good, because it's not fun, but it's like intense and like a good watch, right?
And it immediately sets up that, again, like, we're not doing Hogwarts here. Like, Brakebills is supposed to be safe, but fucked up stuff will happen here.
Yeah, and
that should have been the log line for the show, and they could have smirked right at the end. A good watch.
Well, what I like about it though is that it's not, the characters in the show Fillory, etc. Like the Brakebills world doesn't feel like the Harry Potter world. It feels like
it doesn't, yeah.
Quentin and them are like us. And the, Fillory and Brakebills or whatever is like Harry Potter. And it's like not what if you were suddenly in a YA book where fantasy was possible, but what if like the specific world that you read about, like what if that
existed?
Yeah. And like that's how I was sold on the books, right? It's like Brakebills like actually exists.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and it's totally like not actually fun and cool. It's just completely fucked up. Yeah.
I mean,
like regular school.
Yeah, spoiler. Ryan and I said this in a previous episode that we recorded because we recorded out of order, but does Elliot say this in this episode where he says something about the death count at the school?
Yeah.
Right.
So during
16
the
people
tour,
just happened to die.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's these like during the campus tour where they're doing the Mean Girls cafeteria scene, or the 10 Things I Hate About You quad scene, depending on what generation you were in.
Both work for Kim. That's one of Kim's favorite movies.
Yeah, like we see these like two just very like dour, depressed people walking through the quad, kind of like bringing the mood down. And Quentin's like, "Oh, who are they?" And it's was it the fifth year class?
Yeah, one of the third or the fifth. I
third year classes.
Yeah.
Basically, a bunch of them disappeared, presumed dead. And again, it's just that thing of like, like magic isn't all like, unicorns and stuff. Like it's scary and bad things happen.
Which that adds to your theory, Kim, of like why this feels more real. Because like, yeah, that would, right? Like, there's no way kids weren't dying every day at Hogwarts. There's a moving fucking staircase. Like, I would have fallen off that going to pee to like in the middle of the night being like, oh, let me keep my eyes on
Everyone at the
closed.
school is carrying a gun. And at this school, everyone is a gun.
I was going to say their like hands are the gun. Like,
yeah. Welcome to Punisher Academy.
It's very, this is the X Mansion, and everybody's pissed.
The Sentinels come every day.
They are so drunk every day. Like the physical kids cottage. I love that their version of the Sorting Hat is like, oh, if you're telekinetic, then you get to go to like the most fun gay frat house there possibly is.
I mean, I don't want to take you to Pepperdine and blow your mind, but
Philip, that's very like
I've seen this before.
Philip, that's like you in grad school if you were the head of a like house.
Oh, 100%. The first thing I would do is take down the big neon Tada sign, but because again, that is dating this setting.
It really is.
I really loved it at the time, and I do appreciate it now. But 100%, this is one of those things that like, if a much younger person was watching the show, I'd be like, millennials were a little on the nose. Sorry.
The password to get through the front door is live, laugh, love.
Yeah.
So, is it bad that now I'm like, I kind of want like a big neon Tada sign? I'm like, where would I'm in my office, my office setting on campus. I'm like, where would I put it? Like who? Like one person in my life, one student would walk in one day and get it, and we'd be best friends.
Kim, that reminds me of how when you always say, Kim has said this often, we have been friends for 25 years, that like both of our fashion like comes back in style every few years.
Yeah.
And that's what that made me think of, because I'm like, oh, well, maybe eventually that would come back and then it would be cool.
If you ever open a real life witchcraft store a la the Magic Box, I think a Tada sign or even naming it Tada is hilarious.
But all right, so we are at the end. I have a little bit of trivia. This is like most of the trivia I could find. Philip, you had a few good trivia bits. So a different actress was originally cast as Alice. I'm not sure if I'm gonna say her name right. Sosie Bacon, Kevin Bacon's daughter, was cast as Alice.
Oh, wow.
I was gonna make a Rip Reagan joke, but that's actually weird.
Right? And like there's a sizzle reel you can find online where all of them are like just kind of, they must have filmed those credits. That must have been the first thing, because they're all walking down the street where the credits are, like that wall and that backdrop. It's all of them walking down, and then you see this different blonde woman sitting in a bar, but she's wearing the black dress and the Peter Pan collar that Alice wears, but it's a different actress. I tried to find why that happened, but I could not find anything about why. But she is the actress who was in all the promos for the movie Smile, the one that like cuts herself. That's her. She was
Oh.
yeah. Originally, Hale Appleman auditioned for Penny, and Arjun Gupta auditioned for Elliot, which I could see that. I could see Arjun Gupta playing the like fancy gay
Swishy
guy who, I could see him like selling that. Margot is based off Janet from the books. Her name was changed to Margot because even Lev Grossman agreed, quote, there were too many J names.
Yeah, Jane and Janet is too much in one episode.
Yeah, it really is. And Julia.
Right.
And the show was originally planned as a Fox original show, but they canceled the adaptation and then Sci-Fi picked it up.
Thank fucking God.
Yes.
Thank fucking God.
It worked so well because like also we would have never got to hear Margot say fuck, and like no one says
the
fuck.
ram gods in the sky, like
Summer Mitchell and Courtney Cox deliver the word fuck in such a great way.
So that, like, I was just thinking here when you were saying like, oh, you know, all these actors audition for different roles and Alice was nearly someone else. I can imagine a version of this show where maybe a lot of the characters are played by different actors. There is only one Margot, and that is Summer.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it's crazy that we're talking about two similar shows where similar like types truly do nail it, because it's not the type. It's not like any actor could have done it. It's like they both nailed it in the same way, and you could tell that she studied like people who've nailed this kind of role before, and it hits so hard.
I mean, she has said on the podcast that like she was told to watch Cordelia chase scenes to like get Margot, and that she based Margot a lot of her acting was like based on Cordelia, and like
worked.
It fucking worked, and it did a great job, and it doesn't feel like a ripoff. It does feel like more of like a homage in that style rather than just like a copy, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's fully her own creation. Yeah.
All right, now that we're at the end, favorite scene, Philip?
Oh, I think it's going to have to be the classroom scene, just because it's like the pilot goes to some strange and dark places already, but then it's just like, oh, holy shit.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we are doing this, and we're not waiting around. Like episode 1, people are dying, and that cliffhanger is just, it's chef's kiss.
Yeah. Ryan?
Art freaks, sexually active band geeks, the coolest people you will ever meet. Yeah. Duh.
Kim?
Okay. I obviously love the classroom scene. I obviously love our Mean Girls introduction. Both of those could be contenders. But when Quentin and Elliot meet for the first time, and like they have that first like confusing for Quentin interaction, I just love like that moment where you're brought into this world and how well that's done for them.
It is, yeah, that is done really well. All good answers, but I'm gonna have to go with Philip on that classroom scene because I love a horror, and I love a well done horror, and it just hits all my buttons.
Honorable mention to that door opening, because so iconic, like explains the whole show. It's one shot, but man, damn. I mean, it might be a couple shots, but damn.
Wait, which door? In the beginning?
At the very beginning.
Yeah, that's fair. Favorite outfit, Kim?
All right, I usually pick a chick's outfit, but I'm going with Penny's outfit when he's taking the test, because I'm just like...
He does look great. He's wearing a sleeveless shirt. Looks good.
It's like this vest thing, and he's got this like scarf, and I'm like, I would date you. And
some kind of pirate, steal my heart.
Fuck, marry, never kill.
That tracks, Kim, because I thought like they kind of dress him like a little gay here, but that's Kim's type. Yeah.
Also the show.
Philip.
I was almost going to say Elliot's very like brideshead suit, in his costume, just because it tells you everything you need to know about Elliot and who he is and who he's trying to be.
Yeah.
But again, the fit has just not aged well. So I'm going to go with another peak millennial outfit. And again, to pull back the curtain a bit, Ian and I have already recorded an episode where I've talked about Julia's 2016, skinny leggings. But on her birthday, where she's wearing like the leather pants and then like the floaty white blouse, I just think it's still like a really good look.
Yeah. Ryan?
Yeah, I agree. Bring back Wet Seal. I would, of course, everyone expects me to say I like Margot's outfit the most, and maybe I do. But that's not what I'm going to say, because I subvert expectations like this show. I thought, as stupid as it is, I loved the little policewoman's outfit. Fuck the police, let's be clear. But you could tell it was a costume to the person wearing it. Like the way that it looked and that she wore it was Halloween-esque. And I thought that was such a good detail because watching it, I was like, that's not a real cop. And I thought, poorly made sci-fi show. God damn it. And then we got to a scene where I was like, that's not a real cop. And I was like, oh, on the nose.
That's fair. That is fair. Yeah.
That was great.
I thought more people. I picked Alice. I love that black dress with the white Peter Pan collar.
You love Sabrina,
but also it's iconic. Alice, like Alice's aesthetic, I think is probably the one that stays the same or stays the most similar throughout the entire series. Like that look is very her, whereas I think everyone else goes on a bit more of a journey,
right? Because I do feel like I'm like that is the Alice outfit I picture. She has to, like, I feel like she wears some variation of that in plenty of episodes, right?
Yeah, almost, she's like stranded in the tundra and she's like in a mini skirt with her like hair back.
Whereas in season 1, I feel like a lot of Margot's outfits, it's like she's interning at the same magazine where the bold type is set. It's that sort of, it's giving you, like, in season 3 of Buffy where Cordelia is just dressing like she's permanently going to the country club.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah, Margot looks very like, today we're doing a cut crease.
What grade do we give this episode, Ryan?
I'm going to give it an A because we did complain about specifics, but I want it it's elite. It's so good. It goes along with like Veronica Mars and Alias and a few other shows that frankly I don't think Buffy goes with, where it's a perfect pilot where I'm like, please go watch that episode of television and tell me you don't want to watch the next one. Glee has one of those. Lost.
Yes.
It's a great episode.
Yes.
But not perfect.
Philip?
Yeah, it has to be an A. Like it comes out of the gate so strong and it knows exactly what it is and what it's doing. And the stuff that it's not quite sure on, it will figure out like immensely quickly. So
yeah.
I love it.
Professor Southwick.
We're going A-. That one scene with Julia in the bathroom, I just,
True.
you gotta change, you gotta do something with it to make it a little, I understand like the shock value was important, but maybe just don't take your shirt off or something. Like, yeah. Other than that,
I have to say, Stella Maeve's abs. I hope they got paid for showing up on set.
Like, holy shit. Yeah. I think you're right, Kim. If like they just hadn't pulled the shirt off, it could have maybe been a little less.
I think it was the violence and also him just leering at her for that extended moment. It was a moment too long. He looked like he was enjoying it.
Yes.
And that, not the allusion to sexual assault, is the problem of what I found triggering to look at.
He was enjoying it. Absolutely. Yeah. I agree. But then, Penny's jewelry, keep it from going like any down further. So
Kim, samesies, I give it an A-. I will say I had B+, but you all convinced me A- because it just and Ryan, you're correct. I think I always say Veronica Mars and Jessica Jones and Lost and Twin Peaks are like, I think some of the best like premiere episodes.
Mystery elements.
Those shows also, those characters feel like you know what they're doing, you know who they are. I will say the Buffy pilot gives a really good job of like showing us the characters, but like
it's shoddily made. The only problem is it looks like it was shot with the cameras at the AV room at the Rancho Torres, whatever fucking high school. I'm like,
yeah, they were like, what cameras you got there? Yeah, we'll use that. That's fine. But yeah, no, I think this pilot, like, I don't understand how this pilot doesn't hook. Like I had someone tell me they got halfway through the pilot and they gave up, and I was like, but how? Like,
the show is making extremely specific choices, quick, fast, and confidently, and that's polarizing, but like good.
True.
Lots of people can't watch lots of things that are spectacular, and frankly, I hope they get checked at the door because I don't want to hear complaints later about who you're shipping, you basic ass fuckers. I want weird ships that we would have never seen on screen.
I think some people just come and they want it to be easy to watch, and this show is not easy to watch. You got to pay attention, and it's fast, and things happen, and like that's not what people go to TV for sometimes. So I can see people bowing out then, but like,
and it's unapologetically femme, and I think that like with Buffy, that scares people.
That's true. Yeah.
I think a lot about that Fran Lebowitz quote where like we've kind of lost the discerning audience where like the audience is expected to engage with the work as well, and like a show like The Magician, I mean, she was definitely not talking about The Magician.
No.
But like it's a show that demands a lot of interest and engagement from the viewer, And if you're not willing to give that and give it your full attention, then it's not going to be for you. It's not a casual watch. It's not a procedural. It's not a show where there's like a fantasy of the week. You know, it's
not even like a superhero show. It's like completely.
It's an anti-hero show. Yeah. Super anti-hero.
Yeah, you know, that is a good point. Like, I can't put this in a box with like, Buffy would be the closest, I think, like, of boxes I would put the show in with other shows, because
even then it's more self-aware and like fourth wall breaky and like
and violent.
It's its own thing. That's why we love it.
Yeah. And like this show also, like we said, we can say Julia is being unreasonable. Quentin is being a dick. They're both wrong, both right. Like, I love that. That's the shit I love. That we can, you know, all say that here. But yeah, thank you all for doing this. I am very excited to be getting into this show.
Me too.
We've been talking about this forever. We did an episode on magicians like 2-3 years ago. And when I post magician stuff, it's so funny because I will get people either saying, "What is this?" or "I fucking love that show so much." Like, it's like only one or the two. It's never.
It's like everyone making this show knew that they were standing on the shoulders of Buffy. And they, you know, they make so many references to it within later seasons, and it just makes so much sense that if you love that show, this is something that you will have going to have graduated to, you know, in the years since.
It's like it's in the natural lineage of like X-Men.
Yeah. Yes. Graduating to it sounds correct. That sounds like. Yes, we are going to be doing non-spoiler coverage, only talking about the episode we're here to talk about. And we will be going weekly, hopefully without any breaks. We will see. Sometimes a break happens, but I will try not to have any breaks. We're already halfway done recording for the season, so I don't think we will need to take any. And if you liked Slayerfest 98, you can find us on all social media platforms at SlayerFestX98. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. And please subscribe and give us a good rating, even if you don't like us. And you can support us by subscribing to the Patreon, where we are going through Buffy Season 3 episode by episode as each one turns 25. There's a shit ton of other bonus content over there. Any and all support is much appreciated. If you want to follow me, I am at Ian X Carlos on all social media platforms. Kim, where can everyone find you and get your book?
So you can go to my website, KimberlyAnnSouthwick.com. There's a link to my poetry book, Orchid Alpha, there. And I am at Kim Ann Jo South on Twitter is my preferred social.
And Philip, where can everyone find you and get your book?
So my novel, Love and Other Scams, is available wherever you buy books. My second book, We Could Be Heroes, is available to pre-order as well. I am still on X, nay Twitter. I will leave at some point, but for now it's like I'm in that kind of toxic relationship. So that's Philip_Ellis. And I'm on Instagram at Philip Ellis.
And Ryan, where can everyone find you?
I use a Twitter-like service called Mastodon, and if you don't know what that is, you're good. If you do, you might already follow me. I do well on there. I'm also on Instagram, where I'm unhinged, on TikTok, where I post and delete. So show up to get some takes you won't see anywhere else, literally. And YouTube, youtube.com/@Ryho, RYHO. I do journalism and drag, where I slay my own monsters every week. We have a very cool Catwoman episode that I've been hyping for a long time, but was really emotionally difficult to make. So you'll see when you see, but go subscribe, ding dongs.
And we will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.